Hey there. So, the second of the Romantics that I'm going to talk about in a video lecture for you guys who writes about Melancholy is Percy Bysshe Shelley. So Shelley was politically the most radical of the Romantic poets, of the big six. Shelley was an enthusiastic supporter of the French Revolution, the American Revolution. He believed in individual liberty, sort of unconstrained by tyrannical governments, unconstrained by authoritarian religions, unconstrained by conventional social mores and things like this. He was opposed to marriage, for instance. He didn't believe in it as an institution, although he got married twice for different reasons. But he was a big believer in this sort of utopian ideal of liberty, this utopian ideal of freedom, free love, and things like this. Shelley also experienced a number of hardships in his life. A number of his children died at different times, typically fairly young. He also was estranged from his father, who disapproved of Shelley's life and politics. He had somewhat rocky relationships with a number of the other Romantic poets, who at times were his friends and at times he had falling outs with and things like this. And one of his big problems was that he was chronically short of cash, and he actually had to flee a number of places because he was being pursued by creditors who would have put him in prison. So he actually sort of fled England, and he went to Italy, and he moved around Italy a couple of different times to avoid having to pay debts. So a lot of Shelley's poems are the product of his sort of political unhappiness, the fact that he lived in this age that offered both the great potential of revolutionary France, the American Revolution, the Haitian Revolution, and so on and so on, but it also offered the incredible sort of tyrannical crackdowns that were the counterpoint to the Age of Revolution. So in Britain, again, politics became more oppressive to try and stamp out revolutionary fervor, and so Shelley was a suspect figure because of his revolutionary leanings. So part of it is that he's unhappy about the sort of failure of the revolutionary project to fulfill its liberatory potential. He's unhappy about political authoritarianism in England and elsewhere. He's unhappy about the fact that he's poor. And especially, he's extremely unhappy, he's extremely pained by the fact that so many of his loved ones die fairly early in his life. So the two poems that I asked you guys to look at for Shelley are Stanzas Written in Dejection, December 1818, near Naples, and O World, O Life, O Time. And I want us to talk fairly quickly about O World, O Life, O Time, because it's a short poem, but it's very much a melancholy lament. And again, we get this sort of general sense of how the Romantics understood melancholy and how melancholy threads itself through their works. We get, for instance, lines 4 and 5. When will return the glory of your prime? No more, oh nevermore. So we get this, again, this sort of lament over lost potential, decline, starting to sink into old age. He's not really very old when he writes this. He's not very old when he dies. But again, there's this sort of sense of loss of youth, loss of poetic skill, loss of joie de vivre, as it were. And then the second stanza: out of the day and night a joy has taken flight. Fresh spring and summer and winter hoar move my faint heart with grief, but with delight no more, oh, never more. So again, we've got this very sort of direct, like in Wordsworth's 3 Years She Grew, we've got this very direct sort of statement. I'm sad because of what has been lost to me. I'm sad because of lost poetic skill, lost ability, lost youth, whatever it is. But let's turn now to Stanzas Written in Dejection, because this is a more complex and probably really a more interesting poem in some ways. What Shelley is sort of anticipating here, or what he's sort of experiencing here, is himself in both contrast to and harmony with the city of Naples, upon which he is looking out from his villa or wherever it is that he is. So one thing that we might notice that's actually really quite interesting about this poem is that most of the opening stanza is quite positive. So we start: the sun is warm, the sky is clear, the waves are dancing fast and bright. Blue isles and snowy mountains wear the purple noon's transparent might. And breath of the moist air is light around its unexpanded buds, like many a voice of one delight. The winds, the birds, the ocean floods. The city's voice itself is soft like solitudes. So until this last line, this is actually quite positive. And I mean, this is a surprise. This is ironic for a poem entitled Stanzas Written in Dejection, because, I mean, the title itself announces this poem's sort of privileged connection with melancholy, for which dejection is a kind of synonym. So if this is supposed to be stanzas written in melancholy or stanzas written in sadness, it's somewhat surprising that the opening 8 lines are so positive. Though we get the city's voice itself is soft like solitudes as the last line of this first stanza, and this is our sort of first hint that all is not as it seems. So I mean, solitude, being alone, loneliness. We get this, and we get actually the words, I sit upon the sands alone, line 14, middle of the next stanza. So we've got this growing sense of isolation, this growing sense of alienation, and so on and so on. And then really it's in stanza 3 that we get this sort of full-blown experience of lack, this full-blown experience of sort of not being sufficient, not having enough, not fulfilling one's potential, what have you. So stanza 3 is, alas, I have nor hope nor health, nor peace within nor calm around, nor that content surpassing wealth the sage in meditation found, and walked with inward glory crowned. Nor fame, nor power, nor love, nor leisure, others I see whom these surround, smiling they live and call life pleasure. To me that cup has been dealt in another measure. So this is the stanza that really sort of first announces Shelley's sense of incompleteness or unfulfilledness. I mean, we've got this sort of laundry list of all of these things that Shelley feels he doesn't have. Peace, hope, health, calm, fame, love, all of these things. I may have said love twice, but and he has these other models. The last 3 lines of this stanza, 25 through 27, others I see whom these surround. So he's got these models of other people who have all of these things, and this is a source of contrast for Shelley. And this is actually a big part of Melancholy as well, is this sense that there are good things out there, and I do not have them. And that amplifies my sense of loss, amplifies my sense of incompleteness. And we'll see this with Keats as well. I mean, this is, Ode on Melancholy, this is a big sort of thematic there. And then Shelley says, yet now despair itself is mild. This is lines 28. And so we get this sort of turn to foreboding. We get this sort of turn to, rather than just I'm sad now, we get this turn to there are worse things to come. The future will hold worse things. And I think that what Shelley is concerned about, so this stanza 4 that begins with this line, this is about sort of this desire to lay down and wait for death, to claim the speaker, the desire to give up the struggle of life. And then the last stanza of the poem talks about what it is that Shelley fears, or what it is that this poet persona fears. And I think that is not being remembered, or sort of not being important, or making some sort of impact on the world, whether that's poetic or whether that's political, because again, Shelley had these major sort of utopian political ambitions. So I think there's this fear in the last stanza that goes beyond just my children are dead, my loved ones have died, and things like this. And it goes to, I am concerned about not being remembered, not being sort of worthy of a position of reverence or of memorial. And he says, some might lament that I were cold, as I when this sweet day is gone, which my lost heart, too soon grown old, insults with this untimely moan. They might lament, for I am one whom men love not, and yet regret. Unlike this day, which, when the sun shall on its stainless glory set, will linger though enjoyed, like joy in memory yet. So again, we get this this romantic component of using an emotional experience of nature, of the outside world, and of this, in this case, it's this day that he's recounting, using that as a jumping off point for contemplating one's own sort of position within the world, one's own existence within the world, and in this case, contemplating what it's going to mean for Shelley to die, and whether or not he will be remembered, whether he'll be remembered positively, or whatever it is. He says here, for I am one whom men love not, and so Shelley was, I think, feeling very, very alone and very rejected at the time that he wrote this poem.